Story 1. I've never been the type to go hiking. Honestly, the whole idea of walking uphill through dirt and trees for hours never really sounded fun to me. But, you know, life gets kind of repetitive sometimes. Work, sleep, eat, repeat. It's like my brain just told me one day, hey, why don't you try something different for once? So I decided, why not? Let's do this. I picked a hiking trail not too far from where I live. Nothing crazy, just a beginner's trail, something easy. Or so I thought. The morning of, I didn't really prepare much. I grabbed some water, put on an old pair of sneakers and hit the road. The drive there was nice, I guess. Peaceful, with the kind of calm you get when you're away from the city. When I got to the trailhead, there were only a couple of cars parked. I didn't think much of it. I told myself it was better this way, no crowds or people ruining the quiet. The trail started off fine. Birds were chirping, the sun was shining, and the trees swayed gently in the breeze. Honestly, it was kind of nice. I started walking, feeling pretty good about myself. The trail was shaded and cool, winding gently through the forest. I even took a few pictures of the scenery, trying to convince myself that maybe this hiking thing wasn't so bad after all. About 30 minutes in, though, things started to feel off. It wasn't anything big at first, just little things, like how the air felt different all of a sudden, or how the chirping of the birds seemed quieter. The trail started to narrow too, with the trees closing in a bit more. I told myself it was nothing. It's a forest. Of course it's going to feel a little strange if you're not used to it. Then I noticed something that really weirded me out. Up ahead, the trail forked into two paths. There weren't any signs or markers, just dirt paths splitting in opposite directions. I was pretty sure this wasn't on the map I looked at earlier. But again, I brushed it off, left or right. It didn't really matter, right? I picked the left path and kept walking. The further I went, the quieter it got. No birds, no bugs, no wind, just me and the sound of my own footsteps crunching against the dirt. I started feeling a little uneasy, but I told myself it was just my imagination. I mean, it was just a trail, right? Nothing to freak out about. And then it happened. The moment that made my stomach drop. I was walking, staring down at my feet when I realized how dead quiet it had gotten. Not even a single sound in the leaves. I stopped, looked around, and that's when I saw it. There, down the trail ahead of me, was a figure. At first I thought it was another hiker, which honestly was kind of a relief, but something about them seemed wrong. They were standing perfectly still, facing away from me. It was weird how still they were, like a statue or something. I couldn't make out much detail because they were kind of far, but I could tell they were wearing all black. A hoodie maybe? I don't know. But here's the thing. Something about their posture felt unnatural, like they weren't supposed to be there. I called out, "Hey!" Because, what else do you do in that situation? They didn't respond, didn't even flinch. I felt this weird chill go down my body, but I told myself it was just some weirdo minding their own business. So I kept walking, figuring they'd move or say something as I got closer. But then, as I took a step forward, they started moving too. Not walking away, not turning around. Walking backward, toward me. I froze. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. They were walking backward, slowly but steadily, their head still facing away from me. My heart started pounding so hard I thought it was going to burst out of my chest. I took a step back, and they stopped. I don't know why, but something about the way they moved sent this wave of dread washing over me, like every instinct in my body was screaming at me to get out of there. I wanted to turn and run, but my feet wouldn't move. I was stuck, staring at this person, or whatever they were, getting closer and closer. Their steps were slow, like they were taking their time. Then they stopped again, maybe 20 feet away from me, and that's when they turned their head. Not their whole body, just their head. It twisted around in this unnatural way, like they didn't have bones or something, until they were staring right at me. I'll never forget that face. Pale, expressionless, with eyes that looked like they belonged to a dead fish. Empty, lifeless. I don't know how long we stood there, staring at each other, probably only a few seconds, but it felt like hours. Then, without warning, they started moving again. Faster this time, still walking backward, but now almost jogging. That was it for me. My body finally snapped out of its frozen state, and I turned and bolted down the trail. I didn't care where I was going, I just ran as fast as I could. The trees blurred past me, and all I could hear was the sound of my own ragged breathing. I kept looking over my shoulder, expecting to see them right behind me, but there was nothing. The trail was empty. Eventually, I reached the fork in the trail again. Without thinking, I took the path that led me back to the parking lot. My legs were burning, and my lungs felt like they were on fire, but I didn't stop. I couldn't stop, not until I was out of there. Finally, after what felt like forever, I saw the trailhead. My car was still there, parked where I'd left it. I practically dove into the driver's seat, fumbling with the keys before finally starting the engine. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I glanced in the rearview mirror. That's when I saw them, standing at the edge of the trail, watching me drive away. I didn't stop. I didn't look back again. I just kept driving until I was back home, safe in my apartment. Even now, I can't explain what I saw that day. I've tried convincing myself it was just my imagination, or maybe some weird prank, but deep down I know it wasn't. Something about that figure wasn't human. I don't know what they wanted or why they were there, but I'll tell you this, I'm never going hiking again. So much for a first hiking experience. Story 2. I've always been more of an indoors kind of person, you know? Hiking never really sounded like my idea of fun. Sweating, bugs, and dirt, not exactly my favorite combo. But I kept hearing how it's good for the soul and how it helps you clear your mind. I figured, fine, why not? I could use some fresh air, and besides, how hard could it be? Spoiler alert, I should have stayed home. So one weekend I decided to try it out. Just me, the great outdoors, and a beginner-friendly trail I found online. The weather was perfect, sunny but not too hot, with a little breeze. Honestly, I started to think this whole hiking thing might actually be kind of nice. The trail was gorgeous. Trees stretched up on both sides, the sunlight trickled through the branches, and birds chirped like something out of one of those relaxation videos. It felt peaceful, like I was doing something right for once. Everything was going great until it wasn't. I'd been walking for about an hour when I noticed the trail was getting quieter. The birds weren't chirping anymore, and even the breeze had stopped. At first I told myself it was nothing. Maybe I was overthinking it. But then I saw it. Up ahead, smack in the middle of the trail, there was a figure just standing there, completely still. At first I thought it was another hiker, but something felt off. They didn't have any gear. No backpack, no water bottle, not even a hat. Just standing there like they were waiting for something or someone. I stopped walking. My heart was pounding, but I couldn't look away. The figure was too far for me to make out any details, but I could tell they were tall, really tall, and thin, like way thinner than a person should be. I thought about calling out like, "Hey, you okay?" But something in me said not to. My gut was screaming at me to turn around to go back, but I just stood there like an idiot, staring. Then I blinked, and they were gone. Just like that. 1 second they were there, and the next, the trail was empty. My brain was trying to catch up with what just happened. Did I imagine it? Was I seeing things? I shook my head, trying to snap myself out of it. "Get a grip," I muttered under my breath. Maybe it was just the light playing tricks on me. I took a deep breath and started walking again, a little faster this time. That's when I felt it. You know that prickling feeling you get when someone's watching you? Like an itch at the back of your neck? Yeah, that. I stopped and turned around, and there they were. The figure was now behind me. My stomach dropped so fast it felt like I was falling. They were closer now, only about 10 feet away, and I could see them more clearly. They didn't look right. Their limbs were too long, their body too thin, like someone had stretched them out. And their face, oh man, their face, I don't even know how to describe it. It was like looking at a smudged photograph, all blurry and wrong. But it wasn't just the face. I could hear something too. A noise, faint at first, but getting louder the longer I stared. It was this weird static sound, like an old TV when it's on the wrong channel. It felt wrong, like it shouldn't be coming from a person. The sound was grating, almost vibrating in my skull, and it made my legs feel like jelly. They didn't move, not an inch, but I swear I could feel their eyes on me. Even though I couldn't see them, I felt them. I blinked again, and just like before, they were gone. My heart skipped. I couldn't think straight, couldn't breathe right. Without even stopping to process it, I did the only thing I could think of. I ran. I didn't look back. I didn't care about anything except getting out of there. The trail seemed twice as long on the way back, and every sound made my heart race even faster. My legs felt like they'd give out, but I kept going faster and faster until I saw the parking lot ahead. When I reached my car, I jumped in, locked the doors, and just sat there trying to catch my breath. My hands were shaking so badly that I could barely hold the steering wheel when I finally started driving. That night I woke up to a knock at my door. It was weird. I mean, who knocks on someone's door that late? I figured it was just some random mistake. Someone at the wrong house, or maybe a neighbor needing something. I didn't feel like dealing with it, so I stayed in bed hoping they'd go away. But they didn't. The knocking kept going, steady and slow, like whoever it was wasn't in a hurry. I groaned, hoping it would stop, but it just kept coming. Knock, knock, knock. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I got up, muttering to myself, and shuffled toward the door. My head was pounding, and I was already annoyed. This better be good, I thought. But as I got closer, I stopped. That's when I heard it, the static sound. It was faint, but it was there, buzzing softly on the other side of the door. My stomach flipped, and my hands started shaking. I knew right then what was out there. It was the same figure from the trail. I froze, my feet glued to the floor. My heart was racing, and my brain was screaming at me to do something, but I couldn't move. Finally, I snapped out of it and grabbed the baseball bat I keep by the couch. Clutching it tightly, I braced myself for the worst. But then, just like that, the knocking stopped. The static faded, and everything went quiet again. I stood there, bat in hand, waiting for something to happen. My ears were straining for any sound, but there was nothing. Finally, I peeked through the peephole, and nothing. The porch was empty, like no one had been there at all. I don't know what I saw on that hike or why it followed me home, but I know one thing for sure. I'm never going hiking again. That's it for now. I hope you enjoy these stories. If you did, check out more of my videos on the screen above or visit my channel for even more. Don't forget to subscribe for future updates. Stay safe and take care.